everybody. Welcome back to the Centric podcast. It's Lyss here, and I am joined by Kishore and Bryan to do our expansion draft episode today. So we are super pumped about this. We've been talking about it for a couple days, weeks now, and basically what we've done is we've kind of each come up with our own lists, and we're going to go all together and we're going to make a team. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the certain nuances that we are aware of with the teams and why we might be taking certain players. We're going to argue about certain players coming from certain teams. We're going to try and put together a pretty decent Seattle Kraken team. So we're just going to go through team by team. This is going to be a kind of more interesting episode for people maybe who aren't necessarily Jets fans, because obviously we'll talk about Winnipeg, but we're also going to talk about 30 other teams, I guess, not 31, or because stupid Vegas. How about that? So yeah, we're just going to kind of go through it. We're going to put together a team. We're each going to talk a little bit about the players we picked from that team, or we'll just kind of play it by ear and go from there. So before we get started, Kishore, Bryan, anything you want to add?
Not entirely. I think that pretty much sums it up, to be honest with you.
I'll say my perspective on this was twofold. One is that I definitely put myself in the shoes of the Kraken leadership, who are very analytically minded. And also they have said that while they have permission to spend to the cap, they're trying to maximize their cap flexibility. So I'm not out there taking $10 million players just because. So this is going to be a lot of people that you probably aren't everyday name players, but I think could make for a pretty good team at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. And like I'll say for myself, my perspective was also sort of from the Seattle point in the sense that this is your only chance ever to gain assets for free. So a lot of the guys, I was looking less for team need and more for, we were talking about this earlier, but basically for assets. So some of the guys I have on here, like if I was the Kraken and this became my team, I would trade half of them kind of thing. Maybe not that many, but I might take 2 or 3 goalies or something like that, just because if that's what works for value, if there's no one better on the team, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of how I saw it. But yeah, we're just going to kind of go through and put together our own little Jet-centric team. And if you want to do the same, that would be cool too. And like sort of let us know what you did. I think everyone in the world is going to put together a different team here, which is super fun, kind of like an NHL bracket. So we're just going to go. And yeah, always feel free to let us know if you agree and disagree, because certainly there will be times where you feel both ways.
So I'm going to throw a wrench in and say, I think we should start with the Jets. I know they're last in the alphabet, but they're first in our hearts. So maybe we should start there and each of us draft a player from the Jets. Bryan, you won the toss. So who is Seattle drafting from the Jets?
Seattle is drafting Mason Appleton. I guess we won't talk about the protection lists really extensively from each team. But I feel like we have to talk about it for the Jets just because it's the Jets.
Exactly.
The forwards, I think, are pretty obvious. You have Blake Wheeler, Nick Ehlers, Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mark Scheifele, Andrew Kopp, and Adam Lowry. And yeah, I go with, I guess I got to tell you who I protected on defense. Morrissey, Pionk, DeMello. No screwing around. None of this galaxy braining. We think Logan Stanley is going to turn into some gem like Zdeno Chara or anything. He's 23 years old, maybe limited upside, I think. Anyway, I go with Appleton anyway, so it really doesn't matter. I think Appleton's just a better value pick for Seattle than Logan Stanley. I think he can help the team more right away. I think as you're going to see throughout this draft, there's going to be higher quality of defensemen available to Seattle. So yeah, I go with Mason Appleton.
Yeah, I go with Appleton as well, and my protection list is the exact same as Bryan's. And I think the reality is, even though we love our team, no matter what, Seattle is just going to get some guy, capital S, capital G, from the Jets. Like there's no gem there. They're going to get some names from some other teams, not us. So they're going to get Mason Appleton. They're going to get or Logan Stanley. Or I also had Kopp as an option just in case the Jets were to do something kind of strange there, whatever. If they found out that Kopp has no interest signing here and all that arbitration stuff is going to get opened back up. But I think Appleton is the best bet, even though there are going to be a lot of better forwards available than him. I think it's looking at the Jets and what else is available. I think it's the only thing that makes sense for Seattle. Unless, of course, Dylan DeMelo were to be exposed, and then I think they would take him.
They would take Dylan DeMelo in a heartbeat if he was exposed. Yeah, I'm actually having Seattle choose Logan Stanley. And I said this in the last podcast. I don't think he plays a game for them. I just think big defensemen attract a certain type of GM's eye. And so I think they would draft him purely from the perspective of he's a more flippable asset. And frankly speaking, defensemen are more valuable in the league right now than forwards, especially at Mason Appleton's level of production, which is like he's a middle six guy. He's certainly not a top six guy at this stage of his career. He's been awesome. I think they end up taking Appleton in reality, but I was trying to have some fun, so I chose Stanley. But I think for the sake of our collective team, I'm going to write down Mason Appleton. $900,000, a very value a contract for his production.
Cool. Great. So yeah, and now we're just gonna start off from the top. We're gonna go through our teams. So maybe Bryan, you can kick it off with Anaheim for us and let us know who you're taking from them.
Sure. I had Sonny Milano, left winger, has played 131 games in the NHL, 47 points, not huge production to go off of, but he's had some solid underlying numbers in his time, has shown a lot of skill. I think he's a guy that can add to Seattle's team with a bit of upside.
Wow, that's already a little off the board because most of the mock drafts are picking Volkov, who is more like the potential kind of guy.
Yeah.
Or the people are saying like, oh, they're definitely going to take Adam Henrique. I don't know why that would be. Adam Henrique's Adam Henrique must be 60 years old at this point, because I can't remember an NHL where Adam Henrique is not playing in it.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. You guys want to go with Sonny Milano for our team? I had some ideas about Shattenkirk and Fleury maybe, but I think Milano's a good choice.
Yeah, I think they end up protecting Shattenkirk, but yeah, I think Sonny Milano, good pick. I get the mess of the Arizona Coyotes. And when I say a mess, like I had a hard time drafting a player off this team, even without a protected list. I didn't think it was that great. I'm going to go a little off the board and go with Aiden Hill, the goalie. He signed at $800,000, like a decent goalie. I kind of suspect Seattle's going to take 3 to 4 goalies. And so this is a way to get a cheap one. And goalies are going to be in high need going into the actual draft next week. So I think it builds them some capital. Aiden Hill proved himself able to be a backup goalie for sure. There's a lot to be said for having a goalie basically on a minimum contract.
Yeah, Aiden Hill was one of those guys I had in my original mock-up of this too. Like it was between him and Dryden Hunt for me. So yeah, I'm quite comfortable going with Aiden Hill.
Yeah, I agree. I had him right up there with my picks as well. So move on next to Boston. And I'm going to start that off. I was looking, I have a feeling Boston is going to lose someone pretty good. Someone that I would be happy to have on the Jets, almost no matter who they are, probably. So I was thinking maybe a Curtis Lazar, maybe a Jeremy Lauzon, but I ended up going with Jacob Zboril on. So I thought I kind of liked what I saw from him this year, but they're pretty stacked up there on the back end. He's a defenseman, eh? I'm trying to remember now.
Yes.
Yeah. So they have their McAvoys and their so I'm going with Jacob Zboril. I don't know about you guys.
I had him second on my list. I thought the interesting one is whether they protect Kasha or not, because I think Kasha, if he can ever stay healthy, is the best player available from them right now.
Yeah, totally. That's who I had picking, or I had Seattle picking from Boston. If it wasn't Kasha, who I guess they would have exposed then Craig Smith, right? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
I would have had one of those two, but I'm not in charge here of what the final pick is for us, so that's just my 2 cents.
Let's go with Jacob Zboril. And I'll say, like, Craig Smith is a hell of a lot of fun in the playoffs. He's like the right kind of player you want in the playoffs. It's not clear that Seattle's going to be able to make the playoffs. So I don't know if you would take him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh God, does this? Oh no, I don't have the Sabres. Thank God.
Oh.
Bryan has the Sabres.
I have the Sabres. Right on. Okay, from the Sabres, I had Colin Miller, and just looking through the list here, who did I have exposed from the Sabres? I can't find that list. Anyway, there wasn't a lot to choose from. I think it ended up being a pretty obvious pick for me. So yeah, I went with Colin Miller, a guy who has had good results at points in his NHL career. I mean, he has declined significantly the last couple of years, and he is 28. But there may still be some pretty decent upside there.
Yeah,
As I like to tell people from Edmonton right now, 28 is not 38 when you're looking at defensemen. It's so he feels like a solid middle pair defenseman. He makes 3.875. He feels like a guy that would be in their starting lineup night one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I actually, that would have been my first pick as well, but I actually had him protected and I had him exposing Rasmus Ristolainen because no one's touching that guy with a 10-foot pole. But I think if you're Seattle and that guy's available, that's the guy you want, especially when you look at what's available in the forwards, like someone like Cody Eakin. No, thank you.
You know what? I kind of just want to step in and say, if Rasmus Ristolainen's available, I think Seattle's taking him and flipping him, because there is, I bet you there's a GM that'll still pay a first round pick for him.
There is a GM that would do that. It might be ours, but
yeah, it might be ours.
No. Don't put that thought in my head right now.
There would be GMs who would do that. I think, yeah. But you're right. They might take him in that case, and that kind of goes against my earlier thought that take the best asset available. That would be a strong asset just due to how other people probably perceive Rasmus Ristolainen, just probably very different than how we do. Right. Okay. Kishore, Calgary.
So this is the tough one. I think when you look at a lot of the mock drafts, they have them taking Mark Giordano because they're going to protect Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Anderson, and Chris Tanev on the back end. Problem is, like, yeah, Giordano, like, the game is slowly passing him by. He's 37 now. He makes 6.75. And at the end of the day, I just don't see them taking Mark Giordano for free. Like, there's going to have to be some sort of trade involved, some sweetener. And with that, I'm going to go with who I think is actually has, well, maybe not more upside, but at least some upside in Oliver Kylington. The 24-year-old defenseman basically makes like the league minimum right now. You know, he's never going to be Mark Giordano. Like, I'm not, equating the two. But when you have the option of going old or going young, I think they go young here.
I also had them taking Oliver Shillington, I believe is that.
Shillington, sorry.
Is the pronunciation. Yeah, I had them taking him as well. And yeah, much for the same reasons as you. I actually I thought that Calgary, or like, I went through on the cap friendly tool, right, and kind of crowdsourced the protection lists and changed them to what I thought they'd be. I left the ones that I was unsure about, so they actually had Giordano protected, and I went with Shillington over Tanev, just because I think Seattle does want to go as much upside long term as possible. I think there is a little bit of that from Shillington still.
Yeah, fair enough. Carolina. From Carolina, I took Brady Shea. I think that I don't want to call it a reclamation project yet, because I don't think Brady Shea's that bad. But I just think that there's potential there, and I think people like him. Like, I think he's a pretty, like, I think would be a decent guy to grab for free. Especially if you're going to be getting some other solid defensemen too, and he doesn't have to play a large role. I think he could still be pretty effective down in a third pairing role there. I also had possibly Jake Gardiner as an option. I don't know. That guy just seems like a bit of a wild card at this point. So I think Brady Shea is kind of my safe bet. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Brady Shea makes 5.25. So I think it's a a pick that goes against what I think that Seattle's going to do, but he's like a solid defenseman. And like everyone talking about him having a down year, like I don't think that's actually how it went for him. That's a really deep defensive core last year for Carolina.
Yeah.
And he did not as good as like Brett Pesce or Dougie Hamilton or Jacob Slavin.
All three of those guys are so good though.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's my point, is like I feel like he'll be a reasonable second pair. I think the only thing that gives me pause is he makes money that's like borderline first pair money.
I've never liked his underlying numbers enough to be like, I want to draft this guy. But to be fair, the guy I had from Carolina was Morgan Geekie. So Brady Shea, I think, is as good a pick as any, just from the value you have from him on the market.
Yeah, fair enough, I think.
So I think we go with Brady Shea.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Bryan, if you want to go look at Chicago.
Chicago. Who did? Oh, yes. I had Calvin DeHaan. Very underrated defenseman, in my opinion. Can play both sides. Yeah, that's who I had. I think he's had solid results all throughout his NHL career. I think he'd be a super guy for Seattle to get in their lineup right away.
Yeah, Calvin DeHaan's fine, right? Like as a defenseman, if you had him on your team, you'd be like, he's all right. Like he's not a world beater. He's not an offensive defenseman or juggernaut by any means, but that's like the kind of player that's going to be available in this draft in spades. And he's like, I feel like he's the right pick from Chicago, in addition to being the choice I had too. He's just overpaid for who he is because he makes 4.5.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of guy too that, to my point earlier, a lot of teams would be happy to trade a pick or two for him if Seattle decided that they had too many defensemen or that they decided that just wasn't going to work for them. It's the kind of guy that you would grab for free, again, from a team that's not giving you much else. Like, what do you got? Riley Stillman, Colin Delia, like just some garbage, like not garbage, that's not fair, but like it's just not a super strong. There aren't a lot of good options.
The only other interesting name that was out there to me was Henrik Borgstrom. I don't think, has he played 10 games in the NHL? I'll have to look at this. But
I don't think
I remember him having at least, he's played 58 games in the NHL. I remember him being somewhat highly touted in Florida. So maybe still some upside there, but yeah, ultimately hasn't been progressing how didn't progress like Florida had hoped, and now he's in Chicago's system. I went with DeHaan ultimately.
Yeah, I agree. And holy smokes, I'm looking at my picks and I'm looking at the picks we got now. We are loading up on defensemen. The one could never.
But I think that'll change as we get down the list. But
we can always change it at the end, right?
It's true. Yeah, it's true. So what do you think about Colorado, Kishore?
I think I have the first really interesting team on this list because there is a lot of stuff available here. So I'm kind of thinking they're going to ask Erik Johnson to waive his no move. But even if you do that, you still have Sam Girard, Devin Tays, and Cale Makar that you have to protect on your back end. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to take Ryan Graves, who makes 3.16. He's an excellent second pair defenseman. Mobile. I think he's the kind of defenseman that an analytically minded Seattle team is going to love. And I'll be the first to say there's at least two other players I would choose from Colorado that you could make a strong argument to me right now.
I was about to say, Kishore, like I think like my list that I have personally is, I had Graves first just because that's too good to pass up, but I also had Nichushkin and Jonas Donskoy on there, and I think all three of those guys are better than anything that the Winnipeg Jets will be able to offer them. So I think it just goes to show how freaking deep this roster is and how skilled they are, that they're going to leave guys like this exposed and they'll still be fine.
So if we're operating under the premise that Erik Johnson waives his no move clause, because I had them protecting 4 and 4, so Johnson was in there, then they protected Makar, Girard, and Taves, and Rantanen, McKinnon, Burakovsky, and Jost, which would have left me picking Valeri Nichushkin. If Johnson does not have to be protected, then I would think that Nichushkin does get protected. Maybe I look at Ryan Graves. So I'll defer on that one. I'm not entirely
We're gonna have
sure.
fun. We're gonna have fun and assume that Ryan Graves is available.
I think he will be.
Well, he will be no matter what, I think. Like, he'd be their fifth defenseman.
Because Makar, Taves, and Girard.
Yes.
Yeah, if Eric Johnson waives, they could still go 4-4-1 and protect Graves, Taves, Girard, and Makar. But that seems like wild, because then you're exposing some really you're exposing Kadri, then maybe like you're exposing like some big name players.
I think Graves is carried a little bit by the really good defensemen on Colorado, but again, I could be wrong. But
we saw him get a little exposed in that series against Vegas. That was a little unfortunate. He had a couple of bad flashes and stuff, and people were talking about how excited they were to expose him to Seattle. But I think the thing is, at the end of the day, like, Colorado is going to expose a ton of good players, but they're only going to lose one. So, like, yes, maybe you're going to have, guys like Kadri and, Donskoy, Nichushkin. They're all going to be out there maybe, but they're only going to lose one. So it's probably not that big of a deal. I can't see them going 4-4-1. But I hope they do. I hope, just to be interesting, they do. But
right.
Okay. Next.
Ultimately, Kishore goes with Graves, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Graves.
Okay.
Now we go from Colorado to basically the polar opposite, Columbus. Good luck, Lyss.
Well, this is my moment, guys. This is my moment. I'm so excited. I have Seattle taking Patrik Laine. And here's why. Okay, so here's why. Firstly, we do this for entertainment. And I thought this might be a fun discussion point to bring up, because I guarantee at least one of you thinks I'm absolutely insane right now. So
I think you're insane, Lyss.
Yeah, okay. I know.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
So realistically, there's not a chance that they leave Patrik Laine exposed. But what's his name? Kekalainen is a bit of a weirdo. I kind of like him, but he's a bit of a weirdo. That guy loves draft picks. And if he knows something that we don't about Patrik Laine absolutely refusing to re-sign in Columbus, even with the new coach, and if he's worried about, maybe a crappy market value after this year, Seattle's going to be loaded up on picks, because all these teams are going to be making these side deals like they did with Vegas, because no one learns in this league. They might be willing to do a little bit of a swap around and give a couple of picks, some higher up picks, to Columbus in exchange for Patrik Laine. No, it's not going to happen. And I think we're going to end up picking someone else. But I really just wanted to bring this idea forward, just because I thought it was kind of interesting when I was looking at their prediction list. And I was like, man, this team sucks. Rebuttal time. Bryan, what do you think? Be nice.
Well, I'm not going to be rude. I think the other option, like, I had them picking Eric Robinson.
That was my realistic pick. Eric Robinson or Boone Jenner,
which is whatever. He's a decent player, I think. But I don't know. I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility that, like, Patrik Laine, maybe he doesn't want to play in Columbus. Maybe Columbus wants assets for him, and maybe, I don't know, part of a deal ends up being Seattle picks Laine and Columbus gets some assets. I don't know. I guess it's mathematically possible. So
I think it's a possibility for that to happen with some team that Seattle, because Seattle's going to be getting draft picks on the side to not pick guys. But what if they give up draft picks to be able to pick guys? I think that would be super fun too. So I'm just trying to make this exciting. So.
Do it. Okay,
I'm going to give you a little bit of a vote of confidence here. Like, so we're assuming Seth Jones is going to be traded in the next month or two. He may not be traded before the expansion draft, but there's just too much there where he said he doesn't want to resign. We've already gotten some, even though it was a little mistranslated, we've gotten hints that Laine is not happy. And at this point, you're losing your number two defenseman. Like, we're not going to get in the Seth Jones conversation right now, whether he is actually a number 2 defenseman, but you're losing your number 2 defenseman. You have your best player beyond Patrick Laine is probably Cam Atkinson, who's in his mid-30s already. He's 32. So I think they might just go full rebuild and say, yes, let's trade Jones for prospects and picks. Let's trade Laine for somebody that for a couple picks. So I think the most likelihood, if they trade Laine, it's going to be after the expansion draft when things are settled out.
Absolutely.
So I think it's totally possible if Laine is told John Davidson, like, look, and Kekalainen, like, look, I'm not coming back here. Do something with me. Honestly, I would love to see Laine in Seattle. You know how nuts that fan base would be for a character like him to come there?
It would be awesome.
Be a lot of fun.
I don't hope he gets traded. I don't know how I feel. I think he will get traded. I don't see it being a fit. I don't know, just something about bringing in Pascal Vincent just doesn't sit. Like, I like Pascal Vincent just fine, but I feel like he's part of that the coaching style that Patrick Laine just absolutely it didn't work for him. He didn't like it. Like, I just feel like there's too much there, and I feel like the year was so bad, and like, because he's an RFA, right? And what's he gonna do? Like, sign? Because he's not gonna sign a 1-year deal. They're not gonna let that happen.
He'll sign his qualifying offer.
Yeah,
or
which is like 8.5 or something like that, right?
It's 7.5. And then, like, he's not going to get any more. Like, Columbus isn't going to offer him more than that. So I think he'll just sign the qualifying offer, to be honest with you, and play for 1 year. And then I think he's an RFA one more time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense given the flat cap.
Or is
honestly,
he?
business-wise for him?
I can't even remember.
No, I don't think so, because that's why they only signed him to the smaller deal or something.
He's UFA after the second RFA deal that he signs now. So he can reach UFA at 20. I think he'll be 24.
Goodness, time flies.
So do you guys want to put him on our team, or should we take something?
Yeah, let's put him on our team, because you know what we'll do? We'll put him on the first line for the first time in his career.
Attaboy. All right, so from Columbus, Seattle Kraken are taking Patrick Laine, my beloved. So do with that what you will. Okay, Bryan, if you want to go look at Dallas now.
Dallas. I sure do want to look at Dallas. I had them taking Anton Hudobin. He's been playing at a starting goalie level for, a couple of years now. I just think that's their best option at a starter in this whole draft. So that's who I had them going with. Other options, I guess, included Radek Faksa would have been an option, or, Julius Honka, who's been on waivers each of the past 2 years. I think less of a likely pick if you're looking for an asset. Yeah, I think they go with Anton Hudobin there.
I'm kind of assuming Faksa gets protected. This is a team that doesn't have much to give. There was not much here. And Hudobin, he only has another year on his contract, so it's like, fine. That's our starting goalie. Great.
2 year. He has 2 years.
2 years. But 2 years at like 3.3. That's like livable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I had to. I just didn't it just seemed like a kind of crappy situation. I was kind of looking, I thought maybe depending on what they do with their protection, they could take Blake Comeau. I'm assuming they'll protect him, but it was an option. But I think Kudobin's, I already have him written down, because I think that's
Do you guys have Jason Dickinson exposed?
No. I don't think he qualifies, does he?
Yeah, he does.
He should.
He's 26.
Why wouldn't he?
Oh,
not Jason.
Oh yeah,
Robertson,
he's an RFA this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an okay pick.
Yeah, no, I was thinking he would be a decent pick too. But no, ultimately I'm going to go with Hudobin. Otherwise, that would screw things completely up from a goalie perspective if I do a 180 there.
Okay. Kishore, Detroit.
So number one thing Seattle should know is like never take a call from Steve Yzerman. Like that's the number one rule in hockey. So whatever they do, just make this pick blind. So I flirted with taking Christian the Juice, or Troy Stecker, who I think is probably the player with the most upside. But I settled on Richard Panik just as a player that can actually slot in and play. And he's not great. Like he's a bottom six guy, but he has a little bit of a scoring touch. And he's been saddled on some of the worst offensive teams in recent memory the past few years. So Richard Panik is my guy.
Not bad.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I mean, Richard Panik's fine, but he's not going to.
Sorry, Lyss was talking. I couldn't hear her.
Oh no, I just said I thought he was okay, but I think I'm mixing him up with who else was involved in that deal. There was a deal.
Richard Panik's been traded like 80 times.
I think no. Sorry. I was thinking of
he was for a second. Yeah, no, he was part of that deal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, not never mind.
No, I had them taking Richard Panik as well. I had Detroit protecting Troy Stecher.
And leaving who exposed?
On defense, they had DeKaiser, Juice, Lindstrom, and those would be the three guys they'd have exposed on defense.
He's in his so Panik is in his 10th year in the league and he's been on 7 teams. So that's rough.
Good Lord.
I'll just say. But at least Vanek had like stability early in his career. He has just like his goal scoring has fallen off a cliff. But part of the thing is he's playing in like a different system every month. It feels like I'm not in love with this pick, but it's like it's a warm body is what I have to say.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think they would take Stecher if he was available, but I feel like they've kind of committed to him as a not reclamation. I keep saying that it's to be taken with a grain of salt because I don't think that Troy Stecher is bad, but I think that's a guy that if you're rebuilding a team, that's not a bad piece to have. Just as like an older defenseman, that's not terrible. So I think Panik is a fine choice.
Honestly, they should not take anyone from Detroit because don't trust Steve Yzerman for whatever he's going to expose people and you'd be like, wait a minute, why is this person and they're going to have like the Black Plague or something and like infect your team.
They're going to take almost $3 million away from you with a player that's almost not dead weight. He's not that bad yet, but like Detroit doesn't really lose out that much here. So that's okay. Okay. I am next, I believe. And I am looking at Edmonton. Okay. So Edmonton, I trust Seattle's management too much. I originally was thinking they might take something like James Neal, just because it's James Neal, but I am going with Caleb Jones. It's a choice. It's certainly a choice. He seems like he could be a good little piece to try and build up. I know his mother's insane, and I know, but I think it was a reasonable choice. I think you guys probably had something like Josh Archibald probably as one of your choices, or what did you guys have? Because I'm not in love with this pick, and I would be open to changing my mind.
I actually had Stuart Skinner, 22-year-old goalie.
The goalie, yeah.
But I actually had Caleb Jones protected. I had them protecting Nurse Baron Jones. I don't think Clefbaum's going to play another game in the NHL, to be honest with you.
It's not worth wasting a protection on him.
That's what I mean. So I had them protecting, like it was between Caleb Jones and William Lagesson, and I had them protecting Jones.
See, and then one of those nuanced things, I can't remember, but most Oilers fans feel very strongly about William Lagesson, and I don't remember if it's good or bad.
They're hopeful about him, but he's 25 and hasn't played a whole heck of a lot in the NHL yet.
How tall is he?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know much about him. Like, I don't even know how. I've maybe seen him play like once or twice. I don't remember a darn thing.
I'm looking right now, Bryan, on Cap Friendly, and it kind of looks like William Lagesson didn't qualify.
Well, he didn't qualify. Like he didn't qualify as an exposee in terms of like Edmonton needs to meet exposure requirements.
Oh,
So he
I
didn't
see,
make
but they could
that.
still take him.
They can still take him.
I get you. Okay, because yeah, it looks like we didn't play enough games, but that's fine. Yeah.
I thought I have a question, and I'm not very serious about this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Like, are we past the point of any Kyle Turris reclamation project?
Yes.
Like, yeah, is it over?
He's
It
only
would be
31,
ridiculous.
Kishore.
It would be ridiculous to waste a pick.
He's
on
just
him,
in the
for
back
sure.
half of his prime now. Like he could jump up and all of a sudden shock you. I'm totally
It doesn't make
kidding.
any like it doesn't like his career has made no sense to me whatsoever. And so that's why I ask it. I definitely I had Archibald first, and I struggled with Edmonton because I also agreed there aren't a lot of great picks. So Stuart Skinner is actually kind of a inspired pick here.
I like Stuart Skinner. I'm okay with going with that. See, that's why we have the conversation pieces. Caleb Jones, I was just kind of like, there's a guy. But Stuart Skinner, I also had him as an option. I don't know a ton about him. Like I'm not overly involved with Edmonton's goalie prospects, but I think he's okay, and it might be something interesting because he could turn out to be something. And if he doesn't, then whatever.
He's got upside, and they're going to need AHL goalies and players too. So,
all right,
especially with all the rumors that they're going to buy out Koskinen. So, you know, that we'll go with Stuart Skinner, our third goalie off the board.
Sounds good. All right. Florida.
Florida to Bryan. This is actually an interesting team. There's some stuff here.
Yes. Who did I end up taking? Oh yeah, I ended up going with Radko Gudas. I think he's a better defenseman than people give him credit for. People think of this, you know, big physical defenseman who can't play, but he can play. In terms of who else was available, let me just take a look here. Couple options would have been Lucas Wallmark, I guess Mason Marchment, Marcus Nudavara,
I had Frank
Gustav Forsling. Ultimately, I went with it's kind of like with most of these players, it's like similar to a Jets thing. It's like a DeMello versus Stanley argument. Are you going to take one of the guys that hasn't performed that well in the NHL yet, but you hope to perform well? Or are you going to take the guy that has performed pretty darn well? I went with that in Radko Gudas. If you have objections, lay them forward.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have Frank Vetrano being protected on your list?
I do. Okay. I have Barkov, Huberdeau, Hornqvist, Bennett, Vetrano, Duclair, and Verhaeghe as the protected list.
Which I think is fair, yeah. I don't remember who I had protected in sight because that was the guy that I had, and I also had Anton Stroman as an option. I don't know if they're gonna protect him or if he's any good anymore.
Anton Stroman's too old, I think, at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Worth a pick. He was he was awesome 4 or 5 years ago, but it's not like he's not on the Duncan Keith level, but he's not. Like, I think every defenseman that they ice is probably going to be better than him. Like, I think Gudas is better than him right now.
Fair enough. Okay. I think Gudas is a good option. I'm happy with that. Kishore?
Yeah, I think Gudas is the pick. I'm very curious if they protect Sam Bennett or not.
If they don't, then I'd probably switch to Sam Bennett, not going to lie.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, it's just with Wallmark, I think it comes down to Wallmark or Bennett because they're going to protect Wenberg. I think they're going to protect Duclair. I think he's just overperformed for them to the point where they probably protect him. So depending on how all of that goes, the only other name I had on here is Noel Achari. I think he's like a great role player that would fit into Seattle pretty easily. And I'm just waiting for like shenanigans with Keith Yandel. Like Keith Yandel feels like a name that like he's done in Florida and seems like a name that I've heard associated to the Kraken in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up there, even though I don't think they waste a pick on him.
I think if he waves his no move, then Gudis probably gets protected, maybe.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a good point that I haven't really thought of. So
Kishore, what are your thoughts on LA?
LA is like, this is the futures team. Like, there is not a lot. I only had one player that I think is a everyday NHLer that I put on this, and it's Oli Mata, and I hate myself for putting his name on my potential list because I don't think it's worth putting a pick out, wasting an expansion pick on Oli Mata. In the sense that I think they could get him for a cup of coffee from LA if they asked.
No, when you say that though, because I have he was my first pick as well, but I have like an asterisk beside it, and I have the word letters RP beside it, and at the bottom it's like my reclamation project, because there's not a ton there, and he was okay for like a season, hey, and then he just kind of fell off the earth.
Well, so he was okay in a season with Sidney Crosby on the ice when he was on the ice.
Yeah, he had the what was it? I don't know if was it a cancer thing or whatever. Like,
yeah,
oh
he had something. He had something really serious. I can't remember if it was cancer. Or I think he had to miss like a season or something. I can't even remember. It was quite a while back, but something serious. And I don't know if he was that good before then, but he hasn't been that good since then. But I didn't realize he was only 26 years old.
He really?
He feels like he's 30.
He was a kid when he was really good, and then that's why I thought it was a decent like reclamation project, because he's still, if he ended up being okay, he still has 10 useful years of his career left. So it's like,
I don't know about that, but
useful years. Do with that what you will. But I also had Cal Peterson as an option.
I had them protecting Cal Peterson.
Yeah, I had them protecting Peterson as well. Okay. I actually think Austin Wagner is the pick. He was the number one on my list. He's been like a good AHL player. He's fast. He's kind of like a bottom line type player in the NHL. But like, isn't that what you get when you're drafting a player from ostensibly one of the worst teams in the last
the seventh or the eighth best forward on the second worst team in the NHL? Like, I also had Blake Lizotte as an option. I wasn't sure.
Blake Lizotte is the other option I think that's on there, but these are all futures bets, right?
You know what? I had Matt Roy as my selection. He's had two, I guess, like the 1920 season was, I guess, his first full year in the NHL. He had a cup of coffee the year before that. He was pretty good in his, like, they would call that his rookie year, the 1920 season. And then this past year, he just wasn't nearly as good. So I don't know. I had Matt Roy as my pick, but I ultimately had him as, like, when I put together my starting lineup, he was sitting. So it's certainly not like there's so many meh guys that you can pick from LA, right?
So Wagner, Lizotte, or Roy, I think, is our choice.
I think Wagner's a fine option. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's do Wagner. I'd agree with that.
Lyss, you have, I think, the most interesting team in the draft.
I think so too. So yeah, I have the Minnesota Wild, and I am befuddled by this team, and I don't know. I think the only option is to ask Ryan Sutter to waive his no movement clause, because because you have 3 no movement clauses on your defense, and it's Spurgeon, Sutter, and Brodin. Even if they didn't have clauses, you're protecting Spurgeon and Brodin anyway. But then you also have Matt Dumba, who is arguably I don't follow Minnesota well enough, but I think he's probably one of their best defensemen. It seems insane to leave him exposed, but they have no other option unless they go 4-4. But then they also have 2 forwards in Zuccarello and Parise who have no movement clauses. So then they only have 2 of Marcus Johansson, Kevin Fiala, Victor Rask, Jordan Greenaway, Nick Bukestad, Ryan Hartman, and Joel Eriksson Ek. Like, I just think they're in a bit of a pickle here. Matt Dumba was my pick, but I just think it's insane to lose Matt Dumba for free. I can't see him going. I can't. So if that's not the case, then I'll have Nick Bukestad as my choice, but I just
That's
even
quite
know.
the drop.
Yeah, that's a huge drop.
It
I mean, you
is.
got to remember, this is the team that got burned the most from the Vegas draft with the Alex Tuck deal. And so I think they're, of almost any team, they're the least likely to probably give away picks to protect players, even though it's crazy the situation they're in because of these no move clauses.
I refuse to believe that they're going to let Joel Eriksson Ek walk for free, just because of the big deal they've signed him to and how actually good he is. Like, he is one of my favorite, like, low end players in the league, because he's not a low end player, but people seem to think he is. But then what do you do? Like, I don't even know. Like, because you're not gonna expose Kevin Fiala. Like, I don't even.
Eriksson Ek was awesome this year. So
he was so good. Like, maybe Ryan Hartman or something would be a choice for them.
So yeah, if Minnesota does, and if they go 4-4, nobody waives a no move clause, I think they probably, like, they have to protect Parisi and Zuccarello, and then they probably go Fiala and Eriksson Ek, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
my thoughts if they go.
But then they're losing Marcus Foligno or Jordan Greenway. I bet you that's how it goes down. Like, I bet you that's how
they go. Do you think they
go.
lose Greenway?
I think they lose Greenway.
I think that's a very fair choice. But the thing is, it's same as Colorado. Like, they're gonna have to leave, especially if they go 4-4. They're leaving a ton of really good guys exposed. But they only have to lose one. So if they're able to keep some of those guys, that'd be great. But yeah, I can't see them exposing Fiala or Eriksson Ek, and then everyone else is on a no movement clause. So who do you want to go with? Like, I think, and oh, this is tough. This one's really tough.
I lean Jordan Greenway. So I value Jordan Greenway above Marcus Foligno, partially because of age. I think also just there's more upside with Greenway. Like, if Dumba's available, he's the pick. Like, period, end of sentence. Because even though he costs 6 or whatever he costs, it's
that's not going to matter to Seattle.
No,
like,
that doesn't matter.
And probably. I think he's probably pretty much regarded as being a $6 million defenseman in the league anyway.
Yes.
Totally.
And that's why I don't think they get him, because, like, Bill Guerin has shown some competence in the last, few months that he's been GM. So I think somehow they end up with Jordan Greenway. But anyway, you cut this, they're losing somebody good.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. Like, this is probably the team with the most no movement clauses, I think, of any of the ones that I looked at.
It's
like,
insane.
So many. But the thing is, at least, like, Jared Spurgeon is really good. Jonas Brodin is really good. Zuccarello is really, like, these guys are fine. So it's like, there are worse guys to have. There are the Blake Wheelers that have the no movement.
Well, that's very similar to Zach Parise, though.
Yes, I would almost, yeah.
Like, he's not nearly at that level anymore. He's 36.
And he has 4 years left on that deal. What is the average by the end? He's making 7.5 right now. By the end, he's got to be making less than like 5. If they're signing a 40-year-old man to $7 million, oh my god. Okay.
For the sake of time, we should probably make a pick, though.
Sorry, Jordan Greenway.
I'm voting. Greenway.
I agree.
And it's going to be interesting if people see this list and be like, "What?" Because
I love Marcus Foligno, but in terms of what Seattle's going to want when they want to contend, it's going to be Greenway.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good with that pick. Okay. So then we'll throw back to Bryan to do Montreal. This is also, I think, a bit of an interesting one.
Yes. So ultimately, who did I have? Oh yeah, I had Brett Kulak from Montreal. Lot of talk about Montreal fans freaking out about losing Ben Sherratt.
That was my pick.
Personally, Ben Sherratt, not an analytics darling. Brett Kulak, analytics darling. Seattle, they're going to be a heavy analytics team. They're going to want Brett Kulak ahead of Ben Sherratt. I think Brett Kulak is the better player when I watched them. So yeah, that's where I go with that. I really like Brett Kulak as a player. Underrated in transition and just does some little things very well. Nice passer, in my opinion, has an underrated first pass. And I just think he could be a real solid defenseman for Seattle. I think Ben Sherratt is the type of prototypical physical guy that a lot of those GMs want. I don't think that's going to be the case for Seattle. I'm going Brett Kulak.
I'm good with that pick.
Yeah, I'm good with that pick. I want to say that I think there are a lot of options here because Paul Byron wouldn't be the worst pick. Jake Evans, if available, and if you're, I don't see a world where Jake Evans isn't available, given who, depending on what the hell is going on with Jonathan Drouin. Those are good picks. Jake Allen isn't the worst pick either. So I agree with Kulak, but I could really easily see this being a number of other players. If it's Ben Sherratt, it's a victory for Montreal.
In my opinion, I totally agree. I had Jake Evans is right up there in terms of who they might pick. I think Evans might have a little bit limited upside though, and I think Kulak can already be a top 4 defenseman. I just see that when I watch him. So
yeah, I agree with
where
the
I
pick.
go.
Yeah, I agree with the pick. I just think that this is one of those teams that Seattle is going to win, regardless of who they pick.
Yeah.
Kishore, Nashville. This is also, I think, a bit of an interesting one. What do you got?
All right, I'm going a little off the board here. I'm going to break the rules a little bit, but I'm going to have them take Ryan Johansson. And I think we're about to see the dismantling of the Nashville Predators. We already had the trade of Victor Arvidsson, and with the message that they were going to pick him if he wasn't protected. And so it's kind of giving me some signals that Nashville wants to re-engineer their entire forward segment. And there's been rumors out there that they're going to re-sign Ekholm, and they're not going to let Yossi Ellis go. And they'd be nuts to let Dante Fabro be exposed in this as well. So I'm going to go out there on a limb and say they don't protect Ryan Johansson and let him go.
I think that's a reasonable thing. I had a very similar thought process, but I ended up having Matt Duchene exposed just because I don't like Matt Duchene, and I just think like for an $8 million player,
you asshole, you're not allowed to be exposed. Wait. Yeah, sorry, so you're not allowed to be protected. I got that wrong. I can't speak right now. Sorry.
No, I for what it's one of those things where I would almost compare it to the whole Blake Wheeler thing, where it's like that's so much money that they are not going to want to take, so might as well not waste a protection on him, even though
I think Duchene's still a really good player. So I mean, I think if they want to rebuild, they'll just trade Matt Duchene. Yeah, I think I don't know if he's worth $8 million, but I think he's worth something on the trade market, and I don't think they'll just expose him. But
Duchene has value. Ryan Johansson probably needs a sweetener for them to take him because I just think they're done with him. Yeah. I just get this vibe that it's been too many years and too little results from him, especially.
What a loser of a trade, hey? Garbage. Seth Jones and Ryan Johansson.
Yeah. I will say, I think they could, the likely scenario is they end up with Callie Yarncroke. Just because I think this Johansson thing is going to be complicated. But we're here to have some fun.
I had them taking Connor Ingram, actually.
Which is not a bad pick.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot available. Like on my protection list, I actually had them protecting 5 defensemen and 3 forwards, leaving, I guess the other option would have been Luke Cunnin. I don't think that highly of Luke Cunnin, so I went with Connor Ingram, but there's not a lot there.
Yeah, I feel like Yarncroc is almost the pick there. Like it's such a weird, like it's again, if I was a Nashville fan, I would probably have a much stronger opinion or a much better idea of what it's looking like. But I just feel so in the dark with everything about like, I just feel like someone as not highly regarded. That's not fair to say about Ryan Johansson or Matt Duchene, but it's you would get better value if you traded them. So that's why I don't know if they would be exposed. I think they're in different echelons too. I think Matt Duchene is a lot more valuable, but I don't know. What do you guys want to go with?
Let's go with Johansson. Let's have some fun.
Sure. I like it. Line Andrew Hansen. Who else
And,
has a team?
And speaking of overplayed players past their prime, let's go to the New Jersey Devils.
Aha, nice segue. So New Jersey, I struggled with. I wasn't sure. I was thinking maybe Wedgwood. That was kind of my maybe question mark because Blackwood's been really good, but Wedgwood is just kind of But then again, he's kind of so I don't think Seattle would take him. I also had maybe Merkley as an option. I don't know. I can't even pronounce his name, but Siegenthaler. It's like maybe. But also PK Subban, I think, is an option there, and I think that would be an awesome pick. I love PK Subban. I think there's still something left there to work with, and if you were to create it in a way that you put him in a leadership role and just let him kind of. I think there's a lot left in PK Subban that we're not seeing right now, and I think it would be a really good opportunity for him, and it would be good. Like, I don't think the New Jersey Devils would be mad about it either. So I'm letting you all down, but I don't have a good pick for New Jersey. I had Merkley, but I don't know. Anyone else want to jump on?
I originally had Jonas Siegenthaler, but I also originally in my mock that I did had Matt Dumba exposed, so I took Matt Dumba from Minnesota, which would make me think not to take PK Subban, but without having taken Dumba, I think maybe Subban might be the pick. I don't know how much Subban really has left. Like, he's nowhere close to the same player he was. They'll have him. He's under contract for one more year. So, and there's not really many other options like Siegenthaler, Yanni Kukkonen. Like, these aren't great names. So
PK is the fun pick.
Exactly.
He's the fun pick.
And that's why we have to do it, right?
Yeah.
We didn't take Matt Dumba.
We didn't take Dumba. So a power play, like a top power play guy. I don't know.
And he was actually better this year than he was 2 years ago. So he's not on this like just steep decline. It's just he's nowhere near who he was.
And also there's an ugly $9 million price tag on it that really just doesn't look great. So I understand that. Okay, sounds good. New York Islanders, Bryan, what are your thoughts?
Islanders, I had them taking Kiefer Bellows. Frankly, I don't think there was anyone available. Let me take a look here. So yeah, it was Bellows. Other options, Michael Dalcol.
You could take Andrew Ladd's bust. Non-existent play anymore. Andrew Ladd's contract.
Yeah. Thomas Hickey, like, he hasn't played in the NHL for a couple of years. The other interesting one was Scott Mayfield. When I had gone through this, I had already picked too many defensemen, and like Mayfield, just like I think
we have now.
Yeah. I think Mayfield's a solid defenseman, but I go with the future. Like Bellows hasn't developed into something you would think would be a great NHLer down the road, but like there's the low chance, I guess. So I just ended up going with Bellows.
Works for me.
Yeah, Bellows is a reclamation project, but that's where I went to. I also didn't like a lot of our choices here. They felt weird. Like they're not taking Matt Martin or Cal Clutterbuck or something like that. So,
New York Rangers, Kishore.
Talk about a team that it's just like taking a bunch of people that you're like no idea. So with that, like full admission that you're taking somebody that is, essentially not been playing in the AHL. I selected Colin Blackwell. He's basically a top line AHLer ish. Hasn't played a lot. Play center though, so maybe I don't know. Honestly, I have nothing to say about this pick.
I had Kevin Rooney, Kishore, so there's just not a lot there.
Yeah, right. Yikes. Ottawa. Ottawa was interesting for me. I had a couple of picks. I was looking at Paul and Brown and Watson and Victor Mente. Man, we need to fix this rotation. I looked at the teams I have coming up. I have very not strong opinions about some of these upcoming ones, but
you got Columbus. This is what you live with now.
yeah, I know. I think I go Connor Brown, maybe. I'm not familiar enough with how their protection list is going to go. Is he someone that would be protected? If not, I think he's one of the best options.
I think he gets protected.
I think so too.
Okay.
Who did you have, Bryan? Because I was thinking maybe they don't protect Tierney.
Who? Hang on, let me go to my list.
If I'm the Seattle Kraken, I'm taking Victor Mente, but I just don't think it's in the cards with however many defensemen we have now. So
I had them taking Nick Paul.
Oh, okay.
Nick Paul's great pick.
Nick Paul is great.
Yeah.
Let's go with Nick Paul.
Yeah.
Kishore, works for you?
Yep, totally.
Perfect. Okay, Bryan, Philadelphia. This is another interesting one of the more interesting ones, and I think it became even more interesting this morning.
Well, yeah. I had them taking James Van Riemsdyk, but lots of discussion on who their protection list might include. So I'll just go through that. I had them protecting, obviously, with no move clauses, Giroux and Hayes, and I had them protecting Couturier, Konechny, Lindblom, Lawton, and Patrick. I read an Athletic article about the Flyers protection list. I just went with that because I really did not know. Like, I don't know if they would expose Voracek or not. I don't know. I didn't know if they'd expose Van Riemsdyk or not. So I literally just went with this guy's protection list, and Van Riemsdyk's available. I thought he was the best player available. So that's who I went with, James Van Riemsdyk.
And now here's a foreshadowing idea. Van Riemsdyk brother reunion in Seattle.
Oh, nice.
So there.
Yeah, they're going to, between Voracek, Van Riemsdyk, and Gostisbehere, I think at least two, if not all three, will be exposed. And so JVR is, to me, it's probably JVR because his deal expires in 2 years, including this season. And I don't know if I want Voracek's like 8.25 for 3 years.
Yeah, he hasn't been anywhere near the same the last few years, right?
No. Well, I mean, like for the last year and a half, I think he was good at the beginning of last season, which is like a weird year. I had Nolan Patrick because I had no idea if they were going to be not protect Voracek, but which would be, I think, the obvious pick. And there's been some acrimony there with Nolan Patrick and the Flyers. There's a good player here. Like all those players that we named are good players. Mm-hmm. So I kind of leave it to you, Bryan. Who do you want?
JVR,
yeah. I think that if Voracek is exposed, they take him. I really do. I just think there's too much. Like, I don't know. Like when you think about, there's a whole group of misfits that first year in Vegas, but like when William Karlsson's your star, it's like, I think they would be keen to take a Jacob Voracek and have him as their guy. I don't know.
I think of the analytics group in Seattle, and I just don't think that group would want the contract of Voracek with the sort of lack of good underlying numbers, if you will.
I also feel like we give Seattle a ton of credit for the analytics. They also hired Dave Haxtell, so I don't know what's going on with them. Like, I don't know. They might have made that hire just for like the style of team they think they're gonna have. I don't know. Like maybe it's a style thing. I don't know. Like obviously Haxtell probably
wasn't doing things all that optimally in Philly in his first go around as an NHL head coach, but I don't know. I don't know that much about him. So
Kishore, Pittsburgh, who do you got?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that Sidney Crosby made look better than they are available. So
yeah,
I think most of the mock drafts I saw had Zach Aston Reese as a top pick. I'm going a little off the board and going Teddy Bluger. Same basic thing. I think he's like a third liner. I think you could make a good argument for Jared McCann as being the best player available on the Penguins.
Wouldn't they protect
Maybe Chad Ruhwedel, but he's had a lot of injury problems.
I thought when I was making my list, I protected McCann.
Yeah, knowing the Penguins, they're probably going to protect Tanev.
No, that was
but that's the thing is like they have Tanev for another like 3 or 4 years, so it's between Tanev or McCann.
I protect McCann over Tanev any day.
I would as well,
because we're Winnipeg Jets fans. We know.
I hate Tanev that much. Oh yes, I don't know, but I just think McCann's actually pretty good. I don't know.
I think Tanev's turned into a decent player, but again, the 4 years and he's 29,
making $3.5 million.
Yes. I went with Aston Reese with my pick anyway, but if we're going with one of the other guys, then
Kishore, it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll just say there's an outside chance they expose Jason Zucker. Just like look out.
I thought so too. Like I really think there's a chance they do too. He hasn't been particularly good the last couple seasons there.
God, I'm so excited for those expansion, the protection.
Oh, it's gonna be so much fun.
I'm sticking with my Teddy Bluger pick.
Okay.
Right on.
All right. Okay. Well, we're running this episode real long, and it's a good thing I'm next because San Jose. I literally don't give a shit who they take from San Jose. I have guy, and guy from San Jose. My first one, I had Radim Zemek as one of my options. Rudolph Balcer, and Josef Kornar. I didn't know. Brent Burns is one of my favorite options. I still think they're gonna protect him. But I don't know. I have guy, and guy. I don't care. I
think so too. I went with Balcers, but ultimately it's a whatever pick. Whoever they pick from there probably isn't playing this year.
Yeah, I had Ryan Donato as the only one that I felt like could make a team.
I had them protecting Ryan Donato.
I think I did too.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Guys, Jonathan Dahlen.
What about him?
They're probably going to protect him though. Prospect.
Oh, wow.
Is he 2 years past? Is he available?
He's available.
Yeah.
Why don't we put him in just as like a wild card?
I think there's no way they don't protect him. I don't know.
This is the Sharks. There's been like, I live in the Bay Area. There's no chatter about Brent Burns being let go to Seattle. And so that's why I didn't have him on the list. And there's just no buzz about the team whatsoever.
Is there any buzz about San Jose Sharks in general in the Bay Area? No. Anyways.
Fair enough. You know more about that than I do.
So who do you want to go with?
Let's go with Dahlen then. That feels like a fun pick.
Sure. Sounds good. All right. Bryan, you're next with St. Louis.
St. Louis, I went with Vince Dunn. That was an obvious one to me.
Yeah.
If they don't trade him before this expansion draft,
the Jets,
that would be so cool. I just really want that to happen. But yeah, Vince Dunn was, to me, by far the best player that was available. I just think he's an excellent defenseman who doesn't get enough credit. Played a bit more on the right side this year to far less success. I think you play him on the left side, he's excellent. I think that's what Seattle will do, and I think they'll reap the rewards from it if they pick him. So Vince Dunn, my pick.
All right. Works.
I think I have the champs. There's a lot of good options here, but I don't buy the Tyler Johnson rumors.
No.
So I'm just going with Matthew Joseph. one of the more impressive players in the final.
I like Matthew Joseph. I had him as my pick as well, actually.
I had Eric Cherniak just because I love Eric Cherniak and I think he's a great defenseman. But yeah, Matthew Joseph is also a really good choice, and I think
I had them protecting Chernak.
I don't know what they do on the defense because you had them going 4-4-1 then?
No, I had them exposing McDonough.
What? How can you expose McDonough, who is their best defenseman in the postseason?
Because he's 32 and makes $6.75 million a year
for 5 more years.
I mean, is it 5 more years? Damn.
Yeah.
No,
he was good this year, though.
I just thought he was too good. It didn't even cross my mind to expose him, if I'm completely honest.
But I think he's good. I don't think he's necessarily much, if at all, better than Chernak. And Sergachev might be ready to take on a bit of a bigger role. I don't think Seattle would pick McDonough, so I had them exposing McDonough, and I ultimately went with Matthew Joseph with my pick, and another option would have been Taylor Radish for me, but Joseph has the proven talent in the NHL.
I think Taylor Radish is going to turn into anything, if I'm being completely honest. I don't have enough faith in him to think they would take him, but
bit of a long shot there, maybe, but
yeah, no. All right. I think Matthew Joseph is the pick. So
we each have 1 pick left. So bring it home. 3 more teams.
All right.
Congratulations, Lyss. You have the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I think Seattle takes all of them and leaves them with just their entire AHL roster, and then everyone can cry about it. So.
And we can just be happy about it and applaud and drink and cheers each other. And
yes, it will be so lovely. I think I wasn't sure with this team. I had them taking Justin Holl. I was looking at the defense, and I think Brody had a really good year. I think Morgan Riley is their guy, and I think Jake Muzzin will be protected. So I think that leaves both Justin Holl and Travis Dermott exposed, who are my picks 1 and 2. And I think they would go with one of them. Pierre Engvall was also an option. I had Kerfoot protected, I think, on my list. So I'm not sure about that. But there are a couple other good options. I would love to see a bit of a Joey Anderson reach. I like Joey Anderson. I think he could be cool. But again, it's one of those things. There are way too many other good players available, so it wouldn't make sense. So I'm going with Justin Holl.
I want to just say, like, my pick is going to piss off half of Jets fans, and other Jets half is going to love me. I picked Nick Patan.
Great choice.
There is no way that's going to be the pick.
I think it could be.
No, this is a further reach than Laine. I'll be honest.
Is it?
There is no way.
There's no way.
There's no way.
There's no way, because Kerfoot, Hall,
I had
be available.
I think Hall is kind of like, I think he's just okay.
But so is Nick Patan.
So is Nick Patan, but I don't know, like, Nick Patan's not going to get scooped off waivers, and I don't think Justin Hall's going to be in the starting 6. I don't know. I had Nick Patan. That's all. You know what? They could end up taking Freddie Anderson. That could be a pick.
Freddie. He's UFA, so I don't think they
ignore me. I didn't realize that.
What about Michael Hutchinson?
Yeah, they should totally go ahead with that.
A record number of Jets being drafted in this one. Lyss, it's your call.
I think Kate. I think if Justin Hall and Travis Dermott are both available, which would Seattle take? Because I'm going with
Dermott. Easily Dermott.
I think, because there's no way they're going for. They could go 4-4. Matthews, Tavares, Marner, Nylander.
Mm-hmm.
They could do that.
Because Hyman's gone. And, like, do you need to protect Engvall or, Wayne Simmons or Spezza? You don't need to protect those.
I don't know. I don't think Hall is that worth it. So I don't
No,
know. We were
I-
talking about reaching for Joey Anderson or Nick Patan, so I think they ultimately go 7-3.
Yeah, I think they go 7-3, and in that case, I'm going Travis Dermott. Sorry, guys. Maybe it's not as
Which
fun.
is the consensus pick. So I think you're not in the minority there.
All right, Bryan.
All right. So I've got the Vancouver
Vancouver.
Canucks.
Yeah.
And from the Vancouver Canucks, I select Cole Lind because I don't think there was too much available. Other options, Madison Bowie, meh.
Run away.
Like not good.
No.
Louis Eriksson, do you really just want to take a year of that contract? Probably not. Antoine Roussel, maybe.
No thanks.
I took the 22-year-old that could be a player for a little while.
Yeah, I was wondering if they're going to protect Zach McEwen or not, and so he would be higher on my list than, but like not much.
Because do you guys have Tyler Mott protected on yours?
I dislike that player actively, so I don't care for it.
My bad.
I would say Braden Holtby is actually probably a more likely pick than some of the names we threw out, just because he has a year left, and it's a goalie. He can play.
Yeah.
And we also only have 3 goalies. And if we
got to take Holtby then, right?
I could do it, yeah.
Unless
let's take Holtby then.
You don't want to take Louis Eriksson? No, nobody.
Unless we're taking Vanacek from the Capitals, but
no, I'm going to be a little more. I think
there's going to be a good player from the Capitals. So
I agree. And Kishore.
Okay, so we're writing in Holtby now.
All right.
And I'm going to close us out with the Washington Capitals.
Long lost teammate reunion with Braden Holtby? ?
So there is a lot here because I think they're going to protect Ovi, Backstrom, Mantha, Wilson, Ehlers, no doubt. And then this whole Kuzi thing is a mess. So they think they probably expose him. And then Carlson, Orloff, and Justin Schultz are the obvious ones. So they could take a Michael Kempny. They could take a Nick Jensen. They could take a Vitek Vanacek, who I think is interesting. I'm going to go off the board and say there's a sweetener involved, and TJ Oshie gets picked. Washington State native TJ Oshie, and he becomes the first captain for the Seattle Kraken.
Wow.
I don't know.
That would be kind of crazy. That's like
I would love
it's not I don't know if it's on the same proportion as the Patrick Laine reach, but
I just think that I almost put it bringing it back to the Jets all the time. It's like the same thing as exposing like Morrissey. It's like you can, and maybe in hindsight you should, but you won't. And I feel like that's kind of like, remember this year, like after they lost and he cried and he was like, I'm playing the rest of my career here and stuff like that. Like, I feel like it just looks not great to not protect that guy. Mm-hmm. I would love to see him become the first captain of the Seattle Kraken. I think that'd be a super cool move. But yeah. I don't know.
TJ Oshie is 34, makes 5.75, and is signed for another 4 years. And so I don't know if they get another opportunity to get out from underneath this contract with a partner who's going to be motivated by something more than hockey. Like they're going to be motivated because he's like a hometown boy who could be the face of their franchise. Now we are putting him on a team with Patrick Laine and PK Subban somehow, but
what a team. Honestly, what a team.
I love this team, guys. Screw the Jets.
Look, I don't even care what you're saying anymore. I'm writing in TJ Oshie. He's in. You know what?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
I had Nick Jensen, but I'm getting overwritten here. So
no, I mean Nick Jensen, Vitek Vanacek, maybe even a Daniel Sprong, probably the more likely pick. But I'm trying to have a little. little fun with this one.
I had Evgeny Kuznetsov, so I was also looking for the fun pick.
Whoa!
Wow.
That's not happening. They're trading him for good assets.
Yeah, it's another one of those things. He's too valuable to give away for free. But so is TJ Oshie possibly. But I also think that contract.
The contract makes a big difference, I think.
But if you're trying to make a splash in the first year, he's still going to be effective this year. So, and if they have the money to spend, and that's the one guy that they have to bite the bullet on. Actually, I guess they have PK Subban now. So, okay, so that's our team. What do you guys think?
Well, let's put them on. Yeah, I think this is an awesome team. Let's put them on lines because we have Johansson, JVR, and Line A as your top line, right?
Wow.
That's pretty freaking good as your top line.
JVR and yeah.
And then you have Jordan Greenway's got to be on your second line with Teddy Bluger. I don't know. That now it gets messy.
And Matthew Joseph.
Yeah, Matthew Joseph can be your 2C.
Yeah. And then
with Jordan Greenway on one side. Yeah, that makes sense. And then it turns into guy.
It does a little bit, but Mason Appleton is not a bad guy to have on your third line to start things off. I'm not opposed. And Teddy Bluger is okay. And Kiefer Bellows, maybe. Nick Paul. Nick Paul is a great third, fourth line guy. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll put Nick Paul as
center.
Where's TJ Oshie at?
Oh, TJ Oshie's got a center like the third line then.
Yeah.
Right? With Appleton and Bluger.
Do you think he'll play at center or on the wing? He hasn't played at center since early in his career, I think.
I don't think
you're right.
I think you're right, yeah.
Hang on a sec. What was I looking for?
I like Kiefer Bellows making this team then. And then maybe you want to put Sonny Milano on that bottom line.
Oh yeah, Milano's I like Sonny Milano. I think
that was throwback. That was your first pick an hour ago.
I think it was more than an hour.
It was more than an hour ago. It was like an hour and a half ago.
And then we'll just put like Richard Panik on one of these sides. And kind of move things around.
We have Dolan waiting in the wings, and we got, you know what? This is a good team. Blackwell sitting on the bench.
Well, maybe Dolan could make a jump into, pretty much. He might even be able to play in that spot for Panik on the second line. Maybe, like it could be like Dolan, Joseph, Greenway kind of thing. I think that would be interesting.
They have a lot of defensemen with this kind of thing.
But
does he have like?
Or what would you do for that first pairing? Would it be a Graves and Gudas, or would Colin Miller be up there? I feel like they have a lot of second pairing defensemen. There's a lot of 2D on here.
Graves and Gudas, like Dunn and
Subban.
I think I split Dunn and Subban.
Yeah, Subban on the third pair, but like you'd have Dunn and maybe Brady Shea.
Maybe Jacob Zaboral, maybe
Shea on the left. Shoot.
And then you still have Colin Miller as well.
Gudas. I think you go Dunn and Gudas as your top pair.
Yeah. I could see it.
And then you go Subban with who do you have on left defense here?
Ryan Graves.
Dermott, maybe?
Dermott can make so that leaves Kulak out.
Kulak. I forgot about him.
Yeah, Kulak's around.
Second pairing defenseman.
There's legit like eight defensemen on this team that could make NHL teams.
Yeah. That's what happens when you're too good at drafting.
Yeah, right.
Imagine a problem like this, but who do you take out? But who do you take out is a real question now.
Yeah. Calvin DeHaan can play the right too, so you could put him in any of those spots.
I think that's the call to make. Put Calvin DeHaan on the second pairing there, and then we run with Dunn and Gudas on your top pairing, Graves and DeHaan on the second, and then Miller and Subban. So that leaves Zaboral out, Shilington out, Shea out.
I think Miller sits in that situation. I don't think.
Yeah, you could be right.
What,
And then
you'd
you're
have
gonna
Brady Shea in with Subban at the bottom pair?
I was thinking Brett Kulak.
Oh yeah.
Wowza. So I think we drafted a pretty good team. And we still have a couple guys left over to be 7th defenseman or 13th forwards, and then a couple of trade assets. I like it.
And then you have Kudobin and Aiden Hill and Braden Holtby. That's not bad. Oh, and Stuart Skinner.
And Stuart Skinner.
So Laine's going to get taken by Seattle, and he's going to score 70 next year. It's going to happen.
My dream. I would do anything for that man to score 70 goals. I'd do anything for that man to
just like the Jets are going to win the Stanley Cup next year. It's going to happen.
What's crazy is all of the players we drafted would put you over the cap because it's 82 million, but not all of the players make the roster.
No,
because they have to drop a bunch of players. So I'm actually kind of impressed that this is these are legitimate picks outside of, a couple that we took some stretches on. This is like a real team.
But there will be stretches. It probably won't be these stretches, but there will be some. And I think that's what makes this really fun. And it's a good exercise. And I think everyone should do it. It's like the new bracket challenge. It's like anytime and it's fun because we aren't going to see this again for hopefully ever, because you don't need more than 32 teams in this league. So I think it's a fun thing to do. And I really like this team. And I think we would make a pretty good management team, guys. I don't know.
It could be a lot of fun if we were a management team. Let's be real.
I think we might have a problem with discipline because we would be like, but what if we could get Patrick Laine in the room constantly? And so that might pose some challenges.
I do that anyway. Anytime someone's like, there's a guy in the trade, I'm like, okay, but what if we involved that in a three-way trade for Patrick Laine?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good team. So just a little quick refresher before we wrap things up. So first line, JVR, Ryan Johansson, and Patrick Laine. Second line, Jordan Greenway, Matthew Joseph, and Richard Panik. Third line, Teddy Bluger, TJ Oshie, and Mason Appleton. And fourth line, Sonny Milano, Nick Paul, and Kiefer Bellows. Then our first pairing is going to be Vincent Dunn and Radko Gudas. Second pairing, Ryan Graves and Calvin DeHaan. Third pairing, Brett Kulak, PK Subban. And then our goalies are Kudobin and Aiden Hill. So I think that's an okay team. And I think if that's what Seattle ends up with, they'll be in okay hands for their inaugural year. So
it's almost assuredly not going to happen this way, but at least we had some fun doing this.
I think we can comfortably say that it is assuredly not going to happen this way. Not almost. This won't happen.
This team is going to happen, and it's going to go 82-0.
It's like, yeah, those TikTok trends you say make an 82-0 team. We just did. So
exactly.
Awesome. Okay, well, this is a ton of fun. Obviously a long episode, but again, we're never going to have an expansion episode ever again. So enjoy it while it's here. Kishore, Bryan, thank you very much. This is a ton of fun, and can't wait to see those protection lists come out next week. And we'll probably have some more thoughts then, but this is an interesting thing to put out, and definitely more creative freedom when you don't have protection lists to work off of. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you soon.